Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our first series of our Anu Womb Wisdom panel. We are opening up this space first to give reverence and thanks to the Most High Yah. Also, giving thanks to Chief Yuya for allowing this space for us to share with you this evening. So this is the first in a series of panels that are we are moving into as the opener for the application process for Anu that is opening tomorrow on Shabbat. So I am joined here this evening with several of our Anu sisters, and again, this is the first of two panels for the women, and the men will also have panels. Pre-recorded videos that will happen on 322 and one on 326. So I'm going to ask the ladies to introduce yourselves, starting with Sister Aquia.
Greetings, everyone. I am Ima Aquia, and I have been with Anu Womb, moving close to the year, I believe in July. Aquia, and I have been with.
And Sister Shamanique.
Peace, everyone. My name's Shamanique, and I've been with Anu Life since 2019.
And finally, Ahot Kashia.
Peace, everyone. I am Kashia, and I have been with Anu coming up on a year.
So this is an idea of just a visual, a small piece of the women that are some of the women who are part of Anu Womb and have been moving with Anu Womb. At this point, everyone is 50, but a year and longer. So this evening, we want to kind of share with everyone our experiences, changes we've had to make, as well as challenges that we've experienced, whether that be with like relationships with blood family or friends, and how that's kind of affected us moving forward, and how we kind of remain fluid like the women that we are, right? And fluid and move through as we are growing and strengthening ourselves in this movement. So much like that, I'm going to say that we are going to take the conversation and be very fluid with it. And we definitely discussed and talked with one another about what we want to chat about, but we are going to be fully feminine in this space and just flow, right? So as we talk about our experiences, I'm used to like opening up the floor, but I think it'll be great if we have one of our newer sisters, so Sister Kashia, Ahot Kashia. And I just want to explain to everyone, you'll see that both Sister Kashia and myself, Ahot is the Hebrew word for sister. So we can say Sister Kashia or Ahot Kashia. So, tell us about your experience in Anu.
Shalom or peace, everyone. So, my experience within Anu has been an expanding one, an ever flowing one. It really started with me understanding what humility really is. That's really a big one that I've been sitting with ever since officially entering into Anu Nation. So the experience is always being built and destroyed. I know a lot of us have heard Chief Yuya say, "I will destroy you." So I've come to um, look forward to that destruction, because with that destruction, you understand what has hindered you in the past, what has tainted your bloodline, and what has really been the cause of why certain things haven't happened. And that self-actualization aspect within Anu Nation has been really infilling for me.
Awesome. And I'll share also about experiences that I had. You talk about it being infilling and things that were really, I think for me, it was eye opener, right? Because it made me understand. Joining, I came to the understanding of the things that I was doing wrong and the things that didn't serve me, whether it be food, the way that I dress, like anybody that has known me for a while, I was really into makeup. So there were a lot of uh, changes that were made as a result of my experience, and that people say glow up, but it was a grow up. I'm gonna just say we had to grow over here. So that experience was really, has been and still is fulfilling, because I'm not fully there, right? I'm not the sum total of my experiences so far. I'm still here and I'm still gaining those. So the experience for me has really been one of growth. What about you, Sister Shamanique?
I actually tried to fight it for a long time. I came to a lecture for Chief was doing a lecture here in Toronto, and I fought it for a while, joining ANU, just simply because of the growing. I didn't want to grow, and the major change that I've had to deal with is I'm a DJ, so a lot of the music that I play, like you see the headpiece on the back wall that I played mass. So mass is like carnival. So I played carnival every year, and even DJing like certain soca songs, I can't even I can't relate to them anymore. And it's not that I'm dissing my culture and my heritage. It's just that it's time to evolve. So I really been doing the work. That's what time it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you say that. Yeah, we're not dissing heritage or where we came from, but it is adopting a culture that's righteous, right? So that's really where we are. So when we think about, like, you make me think about, like, when I said, like, food was a thing, in the West and in the secular world, there's a culture of food, but how healthy is that food for us? And so some of the things that I have gone through were experiences with food, and recognizing that there was an overindulgence in some somatic experiences. So really taking that and moving through different ones where I can stimulate all of my somatic senses. So I'm not overindulging in one. So that has been and is still an experience. So not just putting food in my mouth, but, like, what about growing it from the beginning? So that's like the sight, the touch, knowing what it feels like. So there's this full on comprehensive experience of what it is, so that there's not just, oh, I just want to taste it, which is, I heard someone say recently, it's like, that's the shortest part. The food is supposed to be fueling our bodies. So, like, an experience, just to build on what you're saying, is like, really changing the way that I eat. Yeah, Ima Akuya.
Yes. Shalom. So, some things that I've experienced are really tapping into my femininity, my natural womanly role, what it is and what it is not. Um, I really also that was quite a challenge, but I just just coming into the understanding of uh, how my masculinity really overpowered, or overrode, my femininity. And again, like I said, really tapping into it. How am I speaking to others? Um, how am I speaking in terms of aggressiveness? Am I kind towards others? Am I gentle towards others? So those are some things um, that are work in progress, and good experiences, but definitely challenging. Also, something is really learning and understanding what sisterhood is and what it is not, and being open. Being willing, having a willingness to be open and vulnerable and honest and receptive. So those are a few things that I've been experienced and challenged with, but they're both, beautiful. Coming into Anu, um, I I wanted to grow, but I did not realize what the work was going to be. So definitely, a humbling journey.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think Grow. If anyone has watched Chiefs, right, Grow. If
Go,
anyone watched
go.
Chiefs Command the Day series last fall, I think that was really profound, and it's something that pops up all the time. Grow, and even when we think we're there, we may not be there, and so that challenge and that command to grow is ever present. Um,
I
you
would like to
mentioned
say,
like, yeah, go ahead.
okay, I would like to say, in regards to what Emma Aquia said about the masculine and the femininity aspect within our new, um, I have learned the joys of um, femininity, that there is freedom within that domain, and to have that sacred, and it really combines with that sisterhood aspect, as we cultivate those things. It's been really a great transition, even though coming in, it was not understood because of the ego and thinking, I don't need to fix anything. There's nothing wrong with me, or it's just really understanding, like, well, yeah, you're being really masculine in these areas when you don't even have to be. You have to, as it says, man up when you shouldn't have to. And being in Anu and being covered under Anu, there's no need to man up, and there is more time to embrace femininity and that role and that realm of just womanness. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I think how many times or how much of the way that I used to move around was so masculine, right? And a lot of it is because, we're not covered. Like I moved out of the home like pretty young, without a covering. And it's like you start, well, I'm you we buy into the fantasy of like, well, I'm doing it on my own, I'm living on my own, I can take care of myself. And so we're moving around in the Western world and the secular world, and like, yeah, in by those standards, you are, taking care of yourself, but not really, right? There's always something which is like the system to fall back on. So how much of it are you really like doing yourself? And then how much of moving like that pulls you away from being feminine? There was a lot of humbling up I had to do, right? We just had our Sabbat um, presentation, and we talked about humbling up and the humbling up that we have to do. And I had to really sit with a lot of things and really think about how I was not humble and what it takes to get there. And this journey is not one of like lollipops and roses. It requires authenticity and honesty, even unto oneself. And sometimes you notice the ugly things about you that aren't really that pretty, they aren't really that feminine, and you have to figure out, how to do away with them. And so that was definitely, while we're talking about experiences and changes and challenges, that's definitely something that I had to move through. What about you, Sister Shamanique? Like, what about the femininity and being receptive?
Yeah, the humbling up part doesn't always mean being quiet. And I'm always quiet. So I thought that did tie into my humility, but it also tied into me being sneaky, which is a part of that, you know, um, feminism coming in. Because if I'm silent and sneaky, I can get away with doing stuff that no one knows. So I had to really do away with that, and actually, it's helped me quite a bit to just not hide anything. I'm just, instead of moving in silence, I'm actually moving and progressing, and I have the leadership to do so. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
If I could just add in as well, in terms of moving away from um, this masculinity, and actually knowing the difference between the two. But there was this sense of independence and individuality that I had, and this freedom that I was moving in previous to I knew, and I had this false sense of strength. And in all honesty, I didn't there are a lot of things that I just didn't want to be strong about. But coming into I've learned that one of the qualities, and there are many, but one of the qualities that a woman should move in is a virtue, and having a high moral standard. And when moving in that, it shows the power, that you possess, that you are already, created to have. So it was, a real relief to know that I didn't need to walk in this pseudo strength. And men are called, to be strong. I'm called to, move in this virtue. Um, which I would, maybe it's a sense of strength, but I'd rather, move in, a high moral standard, and be seen, seen as virtuous, instead of seen as strong. And I learned this also, through the sisterhood as well, where we talked and discussed those things, and had, lengthy conversation, because, that was difficult for me to grasp, because I had been, independent, moving independently for so long. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. I think it just speaks volumes to the humbling up that needs to happen. And while we're moving away from being less than feminine, right? We want to be more feminine. We're moving toward being feminine. It's also moving toward what our actual purpose is. And I think we have to first like acknowledge that yes, like we can be strong, but it doesn't mean we're going to be strong like men because we're inherently different. So, two things that are different cannot be equal. They're never going to be equal. And sometimes I think for some people it's hard to acknowledge that. But here in Anu, like we accept that fully. Like I am different from a man. I'm not going to be the same as. And so I'm quite happy sitting in what my role is. And a lot of the times, that means because we some of us are still we have different positions, we work and things like that, and so it means that we have to find ways that of moving where we are modeling what we are and who we are in both places, and not kind of sitting in that one foot in and one foot out. So, and sometimes that might be hard, but it's something that as we're growing, we learn how to do until we can move fully, which is the point and the purpose as we're going toward moving fully as Anu women, in all spaces. So that's like even one of the goals that I have is merging both of those things so that I don't feel like I'm this different person in different places. I'm an Anu woman wherever I am. So, yeah. Um, as we're right, as we're talking, I do want to acknowledge the Anu members and the sisters in the chat. Thank you for joining us. We also have Brother Antonio who's here, Sister Munira, Sovereign Eid, Naya, Sequoia. I'm sorry, Ima Sequoia, Sister Erin. Thank you for joining us, and Ima Precious. And I believe there are also some people. They may not be in the chat, but they are watching. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please, please, please engage in the chat. That's what we are here for, is to share things. And as we're sharing, if there is time and space to get to some of your questions and comments in the chat, please feel free to do that. If we cannot get to some of those questions, there will be, as I said before, there will be a second panel where your question may be able to be answered. If it's not something that we're going to be answering here, there's another opportunity for it to answer, and then maybe they'll just come in ready with some of those answers. You can also put some of your questions in the chat if you're watching this after the live, and we will get to them as soon as we can and as we're able. And just a reminder, and I'll do this like all throughout, applications for our new membership are opening tomorrow, and they will close on 3/31, which is a Wednesday. Yes, which is a Wednesday. So please remember that those are in the chat. And as we go on, I will also like kind of get into what the application process is and what it should be. So I want to move forward to talk about like some of the challenges, because we kind of talked about experiences and changes that we've had to make. Another one I'll even add is like makeup. I was makeup queen. I was a student of YouTube University. I had a master's degree in makeup, and that was something that had to go. And so it was a very different thing, like even getting used to my face, like how much of that covering up and putting on masks, that's that humbling up, being our true authentic selves. So an example of experiences and changes that had to be made. So I want to go into like some of the challenges that we've had. So like what are some of the challenges that you've experienced, there as we're moving and growing, right? Not everyone is going to understand the choices that we've made to adopt culture that is right and righteous for us. And so that means sometimes that there will be a pulling away, whether it's from one direction or another, to relationships or lifestyles that we had before, And not everybody necessarily understands that, and that can be like a very arduous process, sometimes hurtful, or so I want to like hear from some of you, and let's share about like some of those challenges that we've faced, because we this is about having an authentic experience, and so that means that there are going to be some challenges that comes with such a major change, when you move from the secular to righteous.
Yeah, although I experienced some challenges with friends and family, well, relatives. Um, I didn't expect it to be so drastic, but I DJ. That's how I started DJing. I would do family events, and now that I don't celebrate all these holidays, they're like, what are you? And
Wait, what
yeah,
what do you mean?
is it me? And then they take it personally, and I'm like, oh no. And I don't go. We spoke about it earlier, like the baby shower thing. Like, yeah, I've lost a couple of friends from that, because they took it personally. So that's been really challenging, because, and sometimes I would go back on my word. Like, I can't do the flip flop, because every time I would say, okay, I'll just do this. I'll go celebrate this one birthday. I like reverse so many steps. Like my progress I just got shot, and I had to start all over again. So yeah, that's been a challenging one.
Yeah, that's been a difficult one too. I'm glad you brought that up. That has been one that I've struggled with, not so much lately because it's been 3 years. So, of course, in the beginning, it's like, what you mean you're not coming to Thanksgiving? What you mean you ain't doing Christmas? You ain't got no tree? No, I don't have any of that. We're not doing revelry. We're not reveling in things. And even for me, was it difficult to not do some of those things? Yeah, because you make the excuse, and I was one of those people make the excuse, but we're just enjoying each other's company. We don't have I don't give gifts, and I don't accept gifts. I'm just going to like be with my family. But the truth is, like, we're in the space and doing things on at this appointed time, right? And we also have to think like, who's appointing those things? Why do we need to have a time where we just get together and eat? And a lot of people will say, well, it's just a day we got off and we can eat. Okay, well, you can take off, August 6th. I don't know if that's a day. I'm just pulling a random date. You can take August 6th and say, like, let's just eat on August 6th. Or, let's, but, also thinking about what you're eating. But, let's be together and have this day to spend together. It doesn't have to be an appointed time that's appointed by, outside culture, especially if we're trying to move where um we're in a space that is closer and more reflective of what we are here to be, which is we're reflections of the Most High Yah. So it doesn't mean that we have to be down here partying and reveling and almost near making golden idols. That's not what we're here to do. So
Then
we're
they throw the kids in it. Then they throw the children.
right.
But that's for the children.
Right, yeah.
Pennies.
And like, and birthdays, it's like, so I even recently had one. It's just like, I'm not gonna like do anything, but people call and it's like, okay, well, I'm not really doing that anymore. Not really, like, I don't celebrate birthdays anymore. And then there's the silence, and then they're like, well, happy birthday anyway. And then there's like the indignance, and it's like, okay, well, people sometimes maybe have to get used to it. So this is where we go back to the modeling, right? So people have to know that you're serious about it. But even things like not doing the holidays anymore is something that can cause risks. And when I say holidays, I mean things that have been put on the Gregorian calendar that the secular world, especially in the Western world, are used to acknowledging. Like, they're just not things that are important to me any longer. I think, Akuya, you were going to say something.
I was. Um, the challenge for me was, first recognizing and learning, coming into our recognizing what dysfunction was, because the way that my family functioned, really in terms of how we communicate, was dysfunctional, but I did not recognize it or see it as that, fussing back and forth and, just throwing jabs and, bickering. And, we always felt like, oh, that's just us, this is how we roll, it's all love, but coming into Anu, I learned and recognized, okay, this is really dysfunctional, and then I had to start thinking about outings that we were on, and moments where it was just not the most joyous because, we're yapping back and forth. So the challenge with me was addressing it, with my family members and saying, you know what, from here on out, this is how I want to be addressed. This is how I'm going to address you, and I'm not going to accept, anything less than that. And that was a real challenge. And there were times where we weren't, speaking for a while, not a long while, but 3 weeks, that's a long time for us. So, but I guess, really backing up, I couldn't necessarily say I was trying to prove a point, in terms of like punishing them, but to say, no, this is what I really mean because this is dysfunction. We have to figure out a better way to communicate. And I also recognize that we were all moving in, the masculine, and I was like, this is wrong. And when you come to your senses about what something is, you realize the crazy that you were in. I said, I can't do this anymore. But what I would like to also say is that we've come to terms with that, and we agree, yeah, this is dysfunction, and no, we don't want to do it anymore. And it's a constant work. We lose it sometimes, but uh we we've instituted conflict resolution. So I was able to say like, look, this is the issue I have, and according to what we agreed to, this is how I feel about it, and we're not, it's not working. So, what is it that we can do so that we can, come to a common place so that we don't have to move this way. And I would have to say, we've made, leaps and bounds where when we do spend time with one another, it's more enjoyable. And I can actually, we can actually talk to one another, and we're actually receptive, and we're actually, really considering, what the other is saying, and really sensitive, to one another. So that was the challenge. But, there's the other side of it, and that is making headway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think,
I
yeah.
would have to say, oh, sorry.
Good. Yeah.
I would have to say, one of the challenges for me was really understanding, how we apply that aspect, the secular activities to holidays, but I had to apply it to everything in life, because coming into our new last year, it was in the midst of, this quote unquote civil rights and all these movements and all of these things. And I found myself in confusion, when trying to balance both, because it was in fact a culture I didn't even attune to. I didn't even, it didn't support me. It didn't have a standard, and it was all tied into dysfunction. So I really had to come to that realization, like this is not something that has been beneficial to where you're supposed to be in your life, and you don't even really know what you're saying. You're just spitting out rhetoric that you saw scrolling down. That's feminism, that's the quote unquote black community, the conscious community, those things. Where is the culture? Where is the hierarchy of man, woman, child? Where's the family? Is that culture reproducing? So, and it was not. So that was one of the challenges for me. Holidays, yeah, was but it's good to hear, after 3 years, I told Deidre that, it doesn't bother you, because my people took it personally. Like I said, I love you less, and I gave a warning, like it's not coming, it's not happening, and so I was shocked,
No,
I
let me be clear. This
I
is
was shocked,
not
like,
some taking it personal. It's not like I'm resolved. It doesn't mean everyone else is. I am
yeah,
resolved with it
yeah.
because there's not necessarily like why. Because I have to some of we have to be honest about like who we are. And even before I knew, like I wasn't necessarily the person to, you know, be very forthcoming. Like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. It's like Deidre's doing what Deidre's doing. And, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
afterward if I feel like it. And so,
That's
but I was still moving in a way that was comfortable for everybody. It's like, oh, well, this,
mhm.
I'm still moving in the secular world, so there's nothing out of order. Right. So now it's very measured. And I'm like, I had to pull back, like pull those, put the rate, pump the brakes and say, whoa, I'm not moving in a righteous way. I'm not humble. There's a lot of things that, have to be changed about myself. I can't, be in victim mode all the time. I have to make these changes. And so I'm doing that. But then, on the outside, it's like, well, what's happening? Like what's happening here? It's different. So even though it's for the better, that's not necessarily seen because it's different and people don't necessarily like different all the time. When different takes some time to get used to. So yeah, it's been 3 years and I'm at peace, but it doesn't mean everybody else is. So it's a work in progress. And to be honest, like some people may never get there. And it's
And
just gonna
that's
be
fine.
what it is. But again, I go back to the modeling. That's why it's important. And I think as family members and friends and or blood relatives or not, as they get, accustomed, they will be accepting. At the same time, I'm not really moving for acceptance. You either gonna get with it or not. So yeah. And I encourage come along. And the best thing I could do is model. Like it's not the point to evangelize, but to definitely model so people can see the changes and the benefit in the change. So I would much rather you come with me. You know.
Yeah,
Come on.
Akuya, did you want to address the chat?
Certainly. I noticed, Sister Erin Barnett, that you had stated it is exhausting. And so my question was, what did you mean by that in relation to the discussion? And we'll continue to chat so that you can tell us what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Give thanks.
Give thanks. So, just a little bit of housekeeping in between. If I didn't mention this before, we do have a 20-second delay, so please be patient as we are, moving through our share here in our conversation. And as we get to your questions in the chat, there will be a slight delay, like as we read them and get back to them, etc. So, yeah, I don't think I said that before. So there's a 20-second delay. So we'll keep moving while we wait for um, Sister Erin's response to what she means by it's exhausting. I think it may have been when we were talking about when we started the blood relatives conversation. But what else? I mean, yeah, the holidays was a big thing. Some things went over well, like when I gave away my makeup, that was awesome. That was enjoyed. But other things is and I'm a person who will pull back if I hear the slightest like jab of a comment. I'm like, okay, that door's gonna close right now until I'm ready to open it again, and I'm just gonna keep modeling. I'm just gonna do, what I do because my point is moving in purpose and moving and making sure that I'm in alignment with y'all. And everyone else has to get there. We all have our journey to tread. And I'm not, here to change a person's journey by force. If you want to do that and acknowledge it because you are seeing the benefits and the things that are happening with me, then awesome. That's what we want to encourage, and that's what we encourage for everyone here, who's watching, whether you're watching live or when you're watching after this live. So yeah, I think one of you I saw Mike unmute, and you guys don't have to like stay on mute. I don't think like unless your backgrounds are really loud, we don't have to be
Well, I
on.
don't know. I just didn't want to. I didn't know if it interrupted your feed or anything like that.
We're flowing. We're water. We water. We're in the
All
stream.
right. Well, I would like to talk about one of another challenge of mine, and then Sister Kashia, you can speak on yours that you wanted to talk about.
All right.
But a challenge of mine was going out before sunlight and after dark. So that was, yeah, that was like, what? What you mean? I got this. But, I had to realize that um, it's for my own protection and safety, and that women have this, and I don't want to say necessarily Anu women, maybe secular women have this idea of how a man should protect a woman. And and so when they're told something, they feel as if that a foot is on their neck, or there's this loss of control that they have, not realizing that, no, when I'm saying to you, don't go out at night, it has nothing to do with trying to control. It has everything to do with you remaining safe. Also, like, don't go on hikes, in the woods, in the deep forest alone. When you wear earphones, do not put two of them on, and really shouldn't have any on, but maybe a little small, carry a speaker. And that was hard. That was another thing that was hard for me to grasp. And Sister Kashi, you talked about the beauty of, you know, a covering, or a man protecting you, and I did not see that until an incident. And it's a shame that it would have to take an incident for me to really grasp and see it. But this experience that I had, I was leaving work, and it was close to 8 o'clock at night. I get off at 7:30, but sometimes, we're over. And I had to walk from one building to a parking structure. And usually when I go to my car, I change my shoes. And so as I was changing my shoes, and then I turned, and then there was this man behind me. He was behind me, I didn't know, and I turned, and I was like, oh my God. And he asked me to, if I would be so kind as to drive my car up to the top of the roof of the building and jump his car. His battery died, and at that time we were on the phone doing the, what is it called, the poet
Poetry.
slant, the
Poetry.
poetry.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, and some brothers were on the phone. I was like, so there's this man in front of me, and he's asking me to do this. And I was quickly told, tell him he needs to find help elsewhere and get in the car and leave. But in that moment is when why does everything come to your mind, in the moment of something like, oh my God, I understand now, I see what is meant. And in that moment, I was totally vulnerable. This person could have attacked me. I did not see him. I did not hear him. You know why? Because I had earphones in my ears, as I was instructed not to do, but luckily that, that didn't happen. But that was a very that was a very valuable lesson to learn. And then moving back to when you said, Sister Kashia, about manning up, had he attacked me, then I would have been put in the position to man up, to a man, and men are physically stronger than women. I would say 2 years ago, I would have been like, what's up? But why? That is not my natural role. It is not my role to, fight a man. So, and I guess I would have to say, because I was taking that on in the instant when he was there, there was nothing within me that rose to say, I'm gonna get down with this man. But I was actually I was, like, oh my goodness, what do I do? But that was a challenge. That's not a challenge anymore, but that was something that I experienced.
Yeah, I didn't like it from the beginning when you said parking garage.
Yes.
Absolutely. I remember that call. It was live doing that, and
Yeah,
it was frightening for us all. It was frightening for us all.
yeah,
I learned that lesson through
interesting.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I told you, like, I'm in the New York tri-state area, and I move around in New York City a lot. Well, pre-pandemonium and the year of confinement.
The
Um,
pan-
right, and it's common to move around with headphones because it's like, crazy repellent. Um, and I have been told, and this speaks to, the why the humbling up and the growing was, important. I have been told before, before I knew, like, you shouldn't be walking around at night, but that's the rebellious nature. That's the lie and the trick of, I could do it by myself and I'm good and I'm grown and right. But the minute something wrong happened, when all another man, and then he said this,
Yes.
right? So
Yes. Yes.
that's not where we should be. That's
No.
stressful. that's not where we should be. So I understand, like, yeah, and so like that again, that had to be like a humbling up, like, and a humbling up because when this came up about like moving around at night, moving around at dark was never really an issue for me because it's like I'm catching them Z's. But like, right at night, it was a thing because it's like, plenty of times I'm at 9 o'clock at night and at home in my office, and then it's like, all right, I guess I'll just go home now. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Mhm.
What are
Mhm.
you doing? It's
Mhm.
inappropriate. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I was out of line. I was so out of line.
Miss Erin, you can get the Anu Foundations at Anu Life Globe, anulifeglobal.org. No, anulifeglobal.org. Yeah, it's on there, and you
Right.
can download that for free.
Mhm. And also, there are plenty of other texts that Chief you have written that are also available on Amazon. So there's Mind Heart Words, which is an excellent text to start with when we're thinking about our emotions and feelings and thoughts and how they're all connected. We mentioned earlier about like, that victimhood, and reading Mind Heart Words will really help you understand like the importance of moving out of victimhood and like realizing the source of where your feelings are coming from. There's also the compass. There is solutions for dysfunctional families. There's also the 14 keys. But yeah, thank you, ladies. Thank you. Uh, there is the on the way, 14 keys, the on the way. Um, what else? Okay. And then making me turn red. And then there is the newest book, which I don't have with me, which is Noir Male, and all of those can be found on the website www.anulifeglobal.org, or you can also search for them on Amazon. The Anu Way, in particular, is actually a free text. I will say, I'm glad you're moving through some of the seduce practices, focusing on experiences and on new when it comes to, moving through orientation and how we are moving in through those spaces of our journey. But I'm going to go back to your comment about something being exhausting. Can you just elaborate and we'll wait for your response? We'll keep moving while you type in your response. Um, and again, for those of you who are watching this video after the live, please share your questions in the comment section, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Some of them we can maybe answer in the chat, or they will be addressed on the next series of this live, which is going to be with the next set of Anu sisters, our beautiful sisters, on next Shabbat in the evening of March 27th. And also for the brothers who are watching, there will be a video with the Anu men sharing their experiences. They have a whole presentation put together and ready. It will not be a live. They are going to be pre-recorded. So they will be available on March 22nd, which is this coming Sunday, Yom Rishon. And the next one will be available on Friday, March 26th. Okay, I'm sorry, I said Sunday, Monday. So Monday, 3/22, and Friday, 3/26. Those will be when the men's videos will be available on this channel. Um, Sister Shamanique, did you have something that you wanted to? I'm trying to remember as I was like running my mouth. I'm like, whose mic went on?
No, I was just addressing Miss Erin in the
Oh,
chat.
okay.
That's all.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So, yeah, the book Anu Nation. Yeah, so that's the Anu way. So there's nothing necessarily left in the chat. So I just want to like just reiterate, before I go and does anybody else have anything that they want to add? Maybe something that we didn't discuss about our experiences, the changes that we've gone through, and the challenges that we've experienced. Um,
What is one of the what if you could choose one? What is the greatest gift you've received thus far from being an Anu?
that's a good one. That's a I don't know because there's been so many. Um, Hmm. Like I'm trying to think, like what's the best one? The greatest gift I've received so far. I think it's the continuous like pouring in of knowledge so that I can really become a wise woman. That has oh, it looks like I must have taken somebody's answer.
No, we good. We're good. We're
Um,
good.
I think so that has really been it for me, right? Because had I not like, ignorance was bliss and I was like really happy to like sit in ignorance, but what is more important is knowing the truth, right? And then also sharing that and speaking with people who are like you in your community and like even gaining community. So I think that has really been a gift to me. Is that pouring into, we talked about earlier like being receptive, that means we're vessels and receptacles for righteous knowledge and wisdom, and I am, that has been the best gift. And while I am thankful for it, I also want to acknowledge that it is from the creator, and that is just, I want to acknowledge like, it is what is really important in that formula and that equation is that it comes from the creator, and I want to acknowledge that, because it's really important to not to exalt the gift itself over the giver of the gift. So I want to say that. So that's been something great for me.
I would have to say the biggest gift is a community and sisterhood, honestly, because I don't have any sisters. So, I mean, I do now, but it's genuinely the best gift to have alikes, other fellow heavenly ones who strive for the same goals. Like, that's a beautiful thing. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to be amongst it and active in it. So that's the most beautiful thing for me, the gift of community.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I have to agree with you both. The pouring into in the community, because the beauty of it all is that we pour into one another. You know, um, we don't just leave it to our chief Jagna. He allows the space that we're able to, you know, do the same as he.
Mhm.
And that we're all leaders, and so I'm in agreement with both of you, but like I said, but the beauty is that we pour into one another. I really appreciate the sisterhood, that I'm in. Let me tell you, I appreciate the sisterhood that I'm in. To work for sisterhood, you know, um, we have this idea of what sisterhood is. I can't even tell you what idea I had. I thought it was this, fun loving, get together, but I learned like, listen, we're not about to sit up here and woe is me on one another, and
As a
bond off of our struggle. No,
right.
you gonna come up, sis.
We all
So
gonna
this no good right here. We're gonna work on this, and to learn that, hey, it's okay. It's okay that, your sister, you know, um, gives you what you need, and so that's another beautiful, there's so many beautiful things, um that we're just able to pour into one another,
Yeah.
sisters and the brothers.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of you as well. And just, it's so easy for this space not to exist right
Mhm.
now. And I really have to give thanks to Chief, and I have to give thanks
oh,
to the balance. Like, we have coverings, and there's a lot of women's group, but there's not that balance with the men being there, and the men are striving to do their work. So we're all keeping each other at a certain level, and I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say I'm even grateful for finding Anu, or maybe I should say Anu found me. And then I just kind of was like, oh, okay, because I was, yeah, what was happening before? We don't know
Special one.
where the road was gonna lead. No one knows, you know, out there. So it's an amazing thing to be found. Um, so I want to, we're coming up on the last 10 minutes. So that being said, I want to use this time to just go back over the timeline a little bit, because it was like I was giving a lot of information. So let me just take you through the timeline. So today actually opened up our panel of information from starting with the women from Anu Womb, um, which is like the precursor before applications open tomorrow. Applications can be found on www.anulifeglobal.org. And if you're one of the sisters, you can apply through Anu Womb, and the men can apply through Anu Man. This coming Monday, Yom Sheni, will be a recording of the brothers' conversation amongst each other for information for men who are interested in joining Life Global Ministries. That will be uploaded on Monday. So it's not a live video. It will be pre-recorded, so it will be available this coming Monday. Then on Friday, on 3/26, Yom Shishi, the men will also be uploading their second video with another group of brothers, much like the women are doing, two separate panels. And they'll be discussing and presenting on other things within the Anu men's group. So please make sure that you are catching all of those videos. And then we'll close with the presentations with the second women's panel, which will be held next strong on Shabbat in the evening. And that will be a live video. So make sure that you catch us. And it will be on 3/27 at 7 p.m. And you can make sure that you follow us on all of the different social media platforms. Make sure you, where is it? Click the bell. It's one of these sides. Maybe it's under you, Shawnee. Click the bell. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell for reminders. And there will definitely be reminders throughout the week, because we are always having different live videos throughout the week. And so we'll be reminding folks. And so in between all of that, applications will open on 3/20, which is tomorrow, and they will close on 3/31. So you will have 11 days to apply to Anu. And I just want to say a few words about the application process. It is a serious endeavor. It is not something to be taken lightly. Make sure you set aside some time for yourself to fill out the applications, because you want to be, honest, authentic, and most of all, thoughtful about your responses, because that really goes into how your application is reviewed. This is not something to be taken lightly, because we're talking about, kind of life-changing things and moving in your purpose. So this is not something to just kind of be flippant about. So make sure you're taking that time to answer the questions. And also, as you move through the application, if there are questions that you have, there will be a section for you to ask some questions. Like if there was something that you were confused about, it's okay to ask the question in your application. So we encourage you to do that. The other thing I wanted to say is, so if you need to take a beat, while you're filling out the application, make sure that you do that. You don't want to, speed through it. So you need to take some time and think about your answers. On the other side of that, if you're questioning if you should apply, then maybe you should take some time and think about that and not apply. If you don't want to apply questioning. If you want to think about your answers, you're definitely sure you're applying, that's different. But there shouldn't be an application if you're questioning, because this is serious movement, and we want to make sure that we're getting the special ones. We've said that time and time and again. We only want the special. So
We only want the special one.
right. So if you're confused, maybe hold out this time. But I will say, as Chief has said, in the last several lives, after this, there is not necessarily going to be an open call. It is going to be invitation only. So you want to really think about that. You have 11 days. And then finally, about the application process. Again, if you did have a question now, if you're not catching this video live, please make sure to put your question in the chat, or you can make sure to catch either the men's videos on the 22nd and the 26th and put questions in that chat, or you can put questions in the next video for the Anu Womb series, where our second group, panel group will be live, and you can ask questions there, and they'll be talking about their experiences, what it needs to be covered, and a lot of interesting things. So right now we wanted to kind of, get the waters warm for everybody, so that you had an idea of what we're doing. So I'm just going to take my attention to the chat really quick. Peace to some of the sisters who came in. Give thanks, Iya Sequoia. Sister Erin responded. So you were talking about it's exhausting spending energy on people that challenge your beliefs. Yeah, and I would say for really, like, we're not in the business of believing, right? Because belief leaves for doubt. This is a certainty. This is a knowing, and we move by faith, imani. And so when we're talking about some of the the readings, definitely pick up a copy of the 14 Keys, and then you'll understand a little bit more of what I mean when I'm talking about faith. Faith is absolute, and it deals with making sure that we are moving in truth, right? So I think it's a little bit more, it's deeper than beliefs. But I totally agree about spending energy on people that challenge what you're doing. And sometimes, that challenging is a moment. It can be a moment for you to grow, right? So that's why it has to be a moving in faith and not belief. Sister Precious, Ema Precious, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Sovereign Eat says, speed typing her answer and then disappeared. Her gift has been like the opportunity to be an active member of a community that focuses on culture, standards, and the importance of family. Absolutely, because that is the goal. Earlier this evening, the Shema build was about courtship and getting to know another person, and I was saying that courtship is the first step in a complete process to building family. So absolutely, I think that's what Anu is about. It is about family. Like, we do have, I'm going to be clear, we do have our Anu womb and our Anu men, but the purpose also is to build family, because at some point we're all going to come together and meet in the middle, right? Because the goal is family. So for some of you sisters who are applying, if you have a mate already, we'll be looking for your mate's application on the Anu man side. And if you are a sister who's single, like, definitely come in, because again, the goal is to build family. There are brothers who are also single. But again, but this is not just like, we're not doing like couples meetup. We're doing everything with intention, and this is about reciprocity and building community. So again, be really thoughtful, honest, and intentional with your actions. Um, Sovereign Needs, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Ima Sequoia, her gift is being a part of a righteous community has been life changing. Working towards one vision is powerful. Give thanks. So with that, I don't. There's not anything else in the chat. Do any of you want to share before we go off? Like, maybe like a quick something about what the application process was like for you.
Um, so I answered the questions honestly. Whatever was asked, I answered. I don't know, maybe I gave too much answer. I don't know, but answer honestly. You know, that's what I would say. Answer honestly, and with some, with in with intent. So I don't
It
have
took
anything
me a
else.
moment. It took me a moment to sit
Mhm,
and think about my answers. And
mhm,
even in my answers, it was almost as if I were talking. Some of the questions I was like, I don't really know, but I'm willing to learn. I
mhm,
was be honest in what I what I didn't know and where I was at and what I was struggling with. And the nature of the questions, you'll understand. If you leave something vague, you won't feel right anyway. So um, the way these questions are really a time to have a sober assessment with yourself, and really see where you are, not where you aspire to be, but where you are at this moment. Because the purpose of I knew you're going to grow. You're going to be destroyed and you're going to build again, so you might as well begin with honesty and that humility, um, because why not, so grow.
Right. Yep. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Grow. So give thanks for all of you in the space and joining us. You can catch the next panel on Sabbat on 327. Give thanks, everyone. And again, leave your questions in the chat. Peace.
Shalom, shalom.
And let's hope.
Shalom.